Hello everybody and welcome to another Transformers third party review. In today's video we're taking a look at the MX-XXV11 Scientist Janssen by X-Transbots, part of their Master X series. This is of course their interpretation of a masterpiece Perceptor. Lovely artwork on the front there. I love the fact that he's holding a pencil around the side there. Again, fantastically done. Look on the back, who have we got there? We've got some of their toy versions of the figures. We've got Cup. We've got their Springer, who is imminent, hopefully. That's about it. Let's crack him open. And here we have him out of his plastic prison. And he looks wonderful, doesn't he? Now, he's not without his flaws. I've seen a couple of people on Facebook and Twitter have issues with their versions currently. Not experienced any of those issues with mine yet, but I'll tell you where they've had the problems and where we should all be a little bit mindful and careful. I was contemplating getting Tesla, the Fans Toys version again. Used to have it just so I could kind of compare it to it, but with Tesla 2.0 coming out as well, I'll get that through Show Z and then I'll compare the two. But for now, I mean, this guy feels more like Fans Toys than some of the recent Fans Toys stuff, especially likes of their Hot Rod and RC and stuff. This guy is leaps and bounds better in my opinion, but it's a very, very tough game. It's understandable that Fans Toys have pushed the release of their 2.0 and bringing that further forward. The third party world does appear to be kind of dog eat dog at the moment, where they try and get sales as and where you can, but my goodness me, having this guy in hand, he genuinely looks amazing. Now before we take a closer look at Perceptor himself, let's take a look at what we get in the box. We get a set of instructions, we get a collector's card. Nice high gloss on there. Pretty much what you would expect. We get an additional set of instructions as well. When they printed out the instructions, some of the steps were missing, so they've included those as an additional piece. Just make sure you pay attention to that. And we get all of these accessories. We get two variations of the gun, that's so we can switch this out between an IDW style and a G1 style. We get a blast effect. We get two of these IDW inspired heads. I got one there with his sights on. We get 5 variations of his faceplate. We get some accessories he can hold. We've got a kind of beaker. We've got a jar there. We've got a test tube, and then we get a mini Perceptor, so we can get a nice close look at things. And then of course we get mini Perceptor in his bot mode. Got a bit of a strange forehead thing going on there, but considering how small these are, I think they've done pretty decent job. Same with Brawn, albeit his eyes are a little bit off, but still, for what they're designed to do, I think they're pretty decent. Bumblebee's probably the worst eye-wise.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
Would have been better, I think, maybe just giving them a blank expression rather than trying to get those eyes. I mean, it's nigh on impossible. I mean, you take one of the human figures, for example, still extremely fun pieces. Do like how they make all of these weapons kind of modular as well, how they install them on those display bases. Very kind of in keeping with what we got with Ironhide. Nice spring in here, really nice spring-loaded mechanism, and then of course his rifle as well. Gorgeous colours. Blast effect doesn't look too bad. Very isn't it? Now, one of the issues I have noticed, some of the accessories fit in the hands better than others. The test tube is a tight fit, but that fits in perfectly. Really nice and tight. The beaker is a little bit loose. It pushes in, then it kind of springs back slightly, so I might need to shave just a tad the plastic off there. Once you close the fingers around though, that does stay on there quite nicely. I love the fact he's got butterfly joints. It makes all the difference. You can really bring these right to the front. And then the measuring jug, I can't get it in at all just because of the width. You shove this in. This really needs to kind of be longer. I think the idea is great, but it's just that bulk won't go past that thumb joint, and then there's not enough grip on those hands to kind of grab it, which is a shame really, because like I said, the beaker and the test tube go in and they hold fairly decently. It's just yeah, it's just I can't get that measuring jug in at all. The guns, however, are no problem at all. Now, scale wise, he actually comes up shorter than I was expecting, but if you've got a copy of Mike Lorber's scale chart, it actually is pretty much spot on. I think it's the green line. I think he's got his kind of head just floating around, and that's pretty much accurate. Now, in theory, he's a Season 2 bot, as is Blaster. I think I'm going to have him displayed with my Season 3 bots, so I will be taking a picture, and once I finish the review, I'll stick those up at the end of the video so you can see how he fares with other Season 3s. I've got various different versions from Fans Toys, Make Toys, etc. So you'll be able to see how he goes with those. But for now, I mean, Prime kind of towers over him. He's still definitely bigger than like the likes of the mini bots. But yeah, that's a decent scale in my opinion. I think one of the selling points over this guy compared to people that have like the original Tesla, for example, is the articulation. That and the fact that he looks very much like his animation counterpart. Yes, he's not quite as trim by what I can see compared to the 2.0, but he is jam-packed, filled with articulation, and he looks so much like his animation counterpart. We've got a head that can go up and down, left and right, with no quizzical tilting side to side though. We do have shoulders that are on ratchets, come up to the side, all the way around. We have a butterfly joint on those shoulders as well, which means we can bring them right the way around to the front. There's a swivel here. We have not one but two bends on the elbow. We have fairly decent articulation on the hands. These three are pinned together, but we still get the bend at the knuckle. We get a double bend on the trigger finger, and we get a double bend on that thumb, as well as wrist pivoting as well. Something that I really hope that they carry over to their Springer as well, considering he carries a sword. We have waist rotation. There is indeed an abdominal crunch. It's very stiff the first few times you use it because there's a latch just on here. So it's a matter of pushing down. You hold this in, push this one in, and push that one up, like so. Too much paint along this line here, you see. Just too much paint on there, so it gets stiff and latches on. But we do have an abdominal crunch nonetheless. This is part of the transformation. But having that up there, we still get full range of that waist rotation. We get hip skirts out to the sides, front and back. Front hip skirts are completely independent and they rock inwards and outwards. We can lift the legs up this far forward. You see that pushes the hip skirt upwards into that void, all the way back there. Really nice range. Backwards motion out to the side on a friction joint. Upper thigh rotation. Nice deep bend on those knees. Bring those hip skirts back down. Coming down to the feet, we can have up and down on that toe. We can bring the foot down and rock it out to the side, so we've got a nice wide stance. And of course, with these being friction joints on the thighs, we can open and close those legs as far or as narrow as you see fit, making it a very natural stance. You open it up slightly, give that leg a little bit of a turn, slight bend of the knee, and then you've got a very natural looking stance. And of course, let's not forget, we also have the ability to move his microscope in and out just by twizzling the knob. Now let's get him transformed up, and I'll show you where mine has a defect as well. You want to open up his hands, this rotates around, fist is all closed up, and thumb kind of comes down. We've got this panel just on the inside here, that's going to flip up like so and come out. On this side, however, look, I've got another left-handed panel as well, so it gets really stuck because there's a small latch just on the outside here, and you then can't get this beyond it or either way. So that one gets really stuck on this hand, but I'm not really sure. I'd have to pop this pin here, I guess. Not sure how easy that would be. I have to take this section here apart, but I'll contact Shozi and see if I can get a replacement. Hand needs to be facing inwards. This thing collapses like so. Thumb comes down. This goes into that void like that, and then closes off. These then compress and compress. Looking at Perceptor's shoulders, we've got a tab here. This is going to lift up. This same on this side. This whole panel here is going to lift up. That allows these shoulders to drop down. This whole piece is going to slide down to the side, and again on this side, slide that whole piece down to the side. Bring this chest out, and this bottom section here is on a double hinge. That's going to rock upwards so it sits on that chest like so. I believe somebody had an issue with part of this mechanism here. There's broke, and I believe T-Man, of all people, had his leg was shorn off straight out of the package, which is a shame. Like I said, I've had no issues with any of this mechanism in here, but obviously if you do have any issues at all, contact the store you purchased it from. From this point, we're going to aim to get this out, so let's just bring that down to here, bring this panel up. Got this neck tab piece, this is all going to come up to the back of Perceptor's neck. This is going to come up, bring this blue piece down, just give us a little bit more room. And if you look at the back here, this whole section here slides up this back panel right the way up to the top, and then we can go up and over, bringing this panel right the way down to the back. Not the most complex transformation. That part there works fairly straightforward if you know how to do it. As long as we slide this piece up as we go, everybody's happy. There's a small panel just underneath his chin. That's going to rotate. This is going to come around like so. Right, and with the head rotated around, we're actually going to flip it inwards and outwards. So this comes all the way down. This is going to flip upwards and over like so. And then we can bring this part here. That's going to come up, square off, and cover off the top of the head. I think in instructions it suggests this piece here is meant to just be folded inwards. So when that's brought up to this angle here, all of this underneath is perfectly square. So then when this comes back up, that's going to just slide up and under here like so, squaring all of that off. And then this little piece here is going to come up like so. In reverse, the set of instructions suggests that when we're transforming him back, that is the first piece that we rotate inwards. Okay, so that gives us that idea. We do need to just close and lock that abdominal crunch section, just putting that forwards and latch that over that piece like so. There's a small tab just on the inside that we can push through with our fingers. That's just going to locate on the hip skirts, bring that piece all the way down like so. This can close off and come all the way through, so it folds inside the torso, so it sits at the back. This piece here can come across and sit down. This can come all the way down again, and you can see that the torso itself is just going to collapse. We've slid this section here all the way down, then come around to the arms. This is going to rotate so that this can come through this void. There's a small tab on this part of the arm, and there is a secondary hinge here as well, which allows hinge inwards and compress downwards, so that when this meets up, that should marry up with the top of that head section. So let's try the same again on this side. Rotate this around so it's square, like so. Bend that up, bring this hinge through, and using that secondary hinge there, bring that in and then collapse this piece down, open up this tab and bring this inside the torso, skimming past that piece there and then pushing and locating into the side of that neck arch. This can then come inwards and that can come back in. This can then come inwards like so, and that can then come back in. Come around the rear, we've got this which can come up, and if we look at the front section here, there's a small tabbing section for the front arm of that microscope. So let's just bring that up. This is going to line up, slide in there and push and just tab and locate. This can then be brought down, lifting these hip skirts up. The waist is going to rotate all the way around, and then we're going to give it a push, allowing that to slide like so, and then there's a little bit of extra room for that to collapse. This is going to come down like so, and that's going to just collapse all the way down fully. Really kind of starting to come together now, isn't it? Our legs are going to lift up to the side at a 90-degree angle, and those hip skirts we brought from the inner torso now tab and locate into those legs. We've also got these very small rollers here. They position flat in the legs for robot mode. For tank mode, they come all the way up to this side, but for the microscope mode, you want to slide it across and just lay it down so it's in this position, and it rests against that side panel. This section extends outwards like so, away from this leg panel, and then holding on, keeping that piece located, you can rotate this hinge here 90 degrees, bringing these round to the front. Make sure the toes have folded inwards like this. If you look here, there's a small tab on the inside of the thigh. Compress that leg piece back off again, locating, and it should, he says, compress and lock into position. And finally we've got these little pieces here that we can push down and flip down like that, making sure everything is located where it's meant to be. And here we have him in his microscope mode. Now, in theory, these should be even smaller if you want them to scale your masterpiece collection. If you get maybe the Wei Zhang Megatron, no, I think even then he'd probably still be too small. Need kind of a bigger version of that. I mean, imagine these would look fantastic with Lewin. I can't get the Lewin one up here, but imagine Lewin doing. Really need kind of a large Megatron to make these work accordingly. Kind of like the ones Toy Alliance, I think it was, like the one they did. I think they would look fantastic with those, but that's a pretty decent microscope. You still use your zoom in and out here, look. It's pretty decent. Everything holds relatively well together. still stand by their colour choices. Think it looks absolutely sublime. Ooh. There. Now from here we do actually have another mode, IDW inspiration being drawn here. So let's flip these back up, flip this back up, and we're going to convert him into his tank form. Just bring it up. It gives us room to rotate, spin that all the way around, flip this panel back in, compress that back. Same on this side, untab, bring that up, spin that round, tab that in, bring this down and compress that. This is going to sit kind of nicely on the front here, coming all the way down like this. Come around to the legs, they're going to untab from here, and we are going to extend, and again untab from here and kind of extend. We want to bring this section up because we are going to lift torso just so we can rotate the waist all the way around like so, and then slide this panel back in. We can then collapse this back off again like so and like so. These can then come back in to this position, and this time we're going to rotate this hinge here, and we're going to untab these tabs here, and that then allows this to come in, and that's going to push into that side panel. You are not going to be able to tab these in using this hinge anymore because you've moved that waist panel. This is going to come up again, flip that panel out. It's going to rotate on this hinge. That's going to come in, and that's going to push and locate in and just square off these hinges here. These wheels are going to come inwards, rotate and stay upright. Got this tab here, push, head across, and that flips this panel here outwards like so. This is then going to fold, and that's going to push and tab into position. There's like so. These bits here I've then got to come out. This is on a double hinge. Mine was ridiculously tight, but this needs to unfold and then unfold again. There we go, to get the tank tread out. This bit here is really awkward to get to. You really want, it's not the best tool to use for the job, but you can see there's this panel hidden away on the inside there. That needs to be lifted up and then up all the way to the top. My knife is very blunt, thankfully, so I just sit in there like so, and that closes off. These now sit where this section here is shifted across. We now have a void, and that's the tank form. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I don't really feel the need for it. It does feel kind of very Thunder Tank, like I guess with these pieces going over there. It doesn't really push and lock as nicely as I would like. Microscope's definitely the better of the two alt modes. But that being said, his bot mode is sublime. I'm probably not going to be transforming him up into either of these modes. Well, I suppose it depends on how good Tesla 2.0 is. You can't ignore the fact that that's coming out. We'll have to see how good that is and which one of these stays in alt mode. But for now, this is a sublime looking piece. No issues with mine whatsoever, other than the fact that this is incorrectly installed. It should be a right hand piece, not a left hand piece. And of course the issue I have flipping out those internal tabs, not the cleanest part there. That's really difficult to gain access to. Not really sure how to do that other than getting a small tool on there, but all in all, very solid looking piece. Articulation is absolutely sublime. Levels of detailing are really nice. Love what they've done. If you do have any issues with yours, highly recommend you contact your supplier. Mine is Shozy. Thanks to Shozy for supplying this. I'll include a link in the description below where this can be purchased. And until next time, from myself and the rest of the Collectables household, thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.